They're relentless. They're unkillable. And for decades, they've haunted our darkest nightmares. Few genres have left a mark on cinema like the slasher film. It's a horror subgenre built on primal fears. The masked killer, the isolated victim, the coming of death. But what makes slashers so enduring? Why have these films, dismissed by critics and loved by fans, survived for generations? Slashers are more than just movies. They're cultural phenomenon. They've influenced fashion, music, and even the way we celebrate Halloween. For decades, these films have mirrored society's fears, desires, and obsessions. But the slasher hasn't always been on top of the horror hierarchy. It's had highs, lows, and even moments of reinvention. In this series, we'll unmask the history of the slasher film, exploring its origins, its golden age, its decline, and its resurrection. Our journey begins in the present day. After the turn of the century, the slasher seemed like a relic of the past, a tired formula that audiences have outgrown. But the 2010s and 2020s told a different story. This was a time of rebirth for the slasher film, as both old legends returned and new icons emerged from the shadows. This era of modern slasher gave us reboots, sequels, and indie experiments that pushed the boundaries of the genre. By the early 2010s, the slasher genre was gasping for air. Many of the icons of the past had fallen into obscurity, or were even stuck in developmental limbo. For years, even Michael Myers was one of them. The Halloween franchise, once a titan of terror, had been shelved after Dimension Films failed to revive it following Rob Zombie's divisive reimaginings.
Yeah, well, when we did that, of course, I knew a lot of people would be saying it's sacrilege to touch the classic. And, I felt like it was a good time to readdress it. We were actually working on a 9, and when you get to number 9, you've got so many unanswered storylines, and it gets so convoluted. What happened to that cousin and this doctor and that, and we really couldn't crack it with the script, and I just felt the time was right. And Rob Zombie is an amazingly creative, gifted guy, whether you like his work or not.
Fans feared the Shape story was over. Then in 2016, the unthinkable happened. Miramax sold the rights to Halloween to Blumhouse Productions, the studio behind modern horror hits like In the Purge.
Well, I think it's always a good time for a scary movie, and I think right now there's a lot of nostalgia. It came out of that, and even Jurassic Park came out of that. And there hasn't been a Halloween movie in a long time. And there hasn't been a good Halloween movie, maybe, since the first one John did. So it was exciting to try and make another one.
Jason Blum and his team saw the potential to resurrect Michael Myers, but they wanted to do something different. Wipe the slate clean and pick up where the 1978 classic left off, ignoring every sequel that came before. To ensure the project's success, they assembled a powerhouse team, and perhaps most importantly, they convinced Jamie Lee Curtis to return as Laurie Strode. For Curtis, the film wasn't just another paycheck. It was an opportunity to reimagine Laurie as a survivor, a woman grappling with decades of trauma. The result was a character-driven horror film unlike anything fans have seen in the series. When Halloween was released on October 19, 2018, it became an instant hit.
We are here for the premiere of Halloween.
Halloween, of course we're talking about Halloween. We got to just show the t-shirt right here, real quick, right in the front row. Look at that. Yeah. Speaking of Halloween, here you are. What's it like to get back into that character?
So the thing that is profound about the movie Halloween that is coming out on October 19th is that it's a movie about what really happens to someone when they suffer some sort of huge trauma. And this is a movie that explores actually what happens. And since trauma seems to be the buzzword of the year for sure,
absolutely,
it's appropriate that our movie tackles the true response to that kind of violence.
Critics praised the film for its balance of nostalgia and reinvention, while audiences packed theaters to witness the long-awaited rematch between Laurie Strode and Michael Myers. The film earned over $255 million at the global box office, making it the highest-grossing entry in the franchise, and one of the most successful slashers of all time. But Halloween didn't just resurrect Michael Myers, it sparked a new trend in horror. the requel.
Oh my god, he's making a requel.
A what?
Or like a sequel. Fans are torn on the terminology.
God, please speak English.
A hybrid of reboot and sequel. The requel brought old franchises back to life by continuing their original stories while introducing a new generation of characters. It was a delicate balancing act designed to appeal to die-hard fans and newcomers alike. The most notable example of this trend was Scream in 2022. The film honored Wes Craven's legacy while skewering the very idea of the requel itself. It brought back legacy characters like Sidney Prescott and Gale Weathers while focusing on a fresh cast dealing with their own bloody encounters with Ghostface. Other films followed. Candyman in 2021, directed by Nia DaCosta, served as a direct sequel to the 1992 classic while addressing modern social issues. And let's not forget Texas Chainsaw Massacre in 2022, which brought Leatherface back into action, though with a more mixed reception. The success of these films proved there was a hunger for the modern classics, but with a twist. While legacy franchises dominated the mainstream, another wave of slashers emerged from the unlikeliest of places, the indie horror scene. These filmmakers weren't bound by studio constraints or franchise expectations. They were free to innovate, to shock, and to unleash their twisted visions on the world. One of the best examples is Damien Leone's Terrifier series starring Art the Clown. The original film, released in 2016, was a low-budget experiment in practical gore effects, created by Leone as a showcase for his makeup skills. But it wasn't until Terrifier 2 hit theaters in 2022 that Art became a household name.
Please welcome Art the Clown.
Funded through a grassroots Indiegogo campaign, Terrifier 2 was made on a shoestring budget of $250,000. Leone doubled down on everything that made the first one so great. The endless gore, shocking kills, and a villain who loved every second of his carnage. Audiences were horrified, and they loved it.
You know, on an entertainment level, I think it's so important. And listen, there's something there about the way we kind of need to cope with the inevitability of death and our own mortality and conquering the monster. I think horror films, I mean, horror, monsters, it's been a part of our mythology since the beginning of time, since the beginning of human civilization. So I think this is just a natural evolution of it, and we need to keep telling these stories, and we need to keep experiencing this. So I think it's super important. I think it's a part of us.
Word of mouth and social media buzz propelled this film to earn over $400 million at the global box office, a stunning achievement for any horror film. Art the Clown became the first true slasher icon of the 21st century, proving that even in an era of CGI, practical effects, and raw creativity could still terrify audiences. But not all indie slashers were about blood and guts. Ty West's X in 2022 embraced a different approach. Set in 1979, the film follows a group of aspiring filmmakers shooting an adult movie on a remote farm. What begins as a slow burn homage to 70s slashers quickly spirals into a shocking exploration of aging, beauty, and the fear of being forgotten. West's direction with Mia Goth's amazing performances made X both a love letter to the genre's past and a bold statement about its future.
I'm nothing like you. You're a kidnapping, murdering sex fiend. I'm a star.
It even spawned a prequel, Pearl, and a sequel, Maxine, which dived deeper into the mind of the twisted antagonist. These films, alongside others like The Babysitter in 2017 and You're Next in 2011, demonstrated that slashers didn't need massive budgets or established franchises to succeed. They just needed visionaries who were willing to take risks and an audience ready to embrace the blood-soaked chaos.
You know, there's the exploitation movies of the 60s and 70s that we all think of when we think of exploitation movies, and then there's the like franchisey sequels of the 80s versions, and then there's the like terrible slasher movies of the 90s version. And then now, or like when you reference the torture porn, things like that, it's just like they're all different versions.
Beyond the satire and the gore, modern slashers have also sparked a larger conversation, one that has critics and audiences rethinking the genre's legacy. For decades, slashers were dismissed as mindless entertainment, cheap thrills churned out for a quick buck. But in the 2010s and 2020s, something changed. Critics and audiences began to see the genre in a new light. Take Terrifier 2 and 3. Its gruesome kills and low-budget charm didn't just appeal to horror fans, it made headlines. Stories of audience members fainting and vomiting during screenings turned the film into a viral sensation, propelling it to financial and cultural success. Even more traditional slashers like Halloween earned critical acclaim, with critics praising its exploration of trauma and generational legacy. These films prove that slashers could be more than just bloodbaths. They could be emotionally resonant. Slashers were no longer guilty pleasures. They were legitimate cultural milestones. And so the slasher genre has risen again, bloody, bold, and more relevant than ever. But to understand how far it's come, we need to look back. Next time we'll explore the era that nearly killed the slasher, the downfall of the 2000s. Make sure to follow to never miss out on any of our videos. This has been Rapid Review. See you at the movies.